Hey everyone, in today's video we are taking a look at a brand new drugstore foundation, and it's the Maybelline Superstay 30 Hour Lumi Matte Foundation. Ooh, that was a mouthful. This is not a first impression. I have been testing this out for the past few weeks and honestly this has surprised me. So if you are interested in hearing all of my thoughts on this foundation, then please do keep on watching. So this is a relatively new foundation. It has actually been out in the UK and Ireland for quite a while now, but I didn't want to get it. And why is that? Because it says that it's a matte foundation. I just don't like matte foundations. I prefer a glowy, a luminous, a dewy foundation. That is just my preference. I think I just find it more flattering on my mature skin. And also my skin is normal to dry. So if I use a matte foundation, it just highlights all the dryness on my face. But I kept seeing reviews of this and everybody was banging on about how good it was, so I had to get it. There's only so much I can resist. I think that this has been a reformulated foundation. I did see online some people talking about a foundation called Activewear. I could have that completely wrong. But there are people that are really disappointed because they've got rid of a foundation and they've replaced it with this. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know about that, let us know down in the comments. One of my absolute favourite foundations from the drugstore comes from Maybelline, and that's the Superstay Skin Tint. I will insert a section later on in the video where I compare these foundations side by side. So this Lumi Matte Foundation retails for about $12.99 in the UK. It's about $14.99 in the US, and in Ireland it's $16.99. I don't get how we end up paying more. And that was another thing that put me off, like €17 for a drugstore foundation. What world are we actually living in right now where a drugstore foundation costs nearly €20? Wow. I've mentioned this before, but the shades are different over this side of the world than they are in the US. So I think over this side of the world, we have about 22 shades. And in the US, I think you have about 24. So this claims to be a medium to full coverage. It has a luminous matte finish. It has up to 30 hours of staying power. It is infused with amino acids. It has a vegan formula. And it claims to be transfer, water, heat, and sweat resistant, which are quite bold claims. In terms of the ingredients, it is worth noting that this does contain alcohol denat, so that is just something worth noting because some people have super sensitive skin and you might find that quite drying. So I'm going to apply this to my bare face. I don't have anything on at the moment apart from my eyebrows. I have only prepped my face with my usual moisturizer, with my usual Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream. I picked this up in the shade 128. I don't know if there is a 128 in the US. I don't think there is, but this is definitely a decent shade match for me. I actually went in store to pick this shade, which I literally never do. My first impressions of the formula was a great one. I absolutely love to see this. I love to see fluidity because it means that, in my opinion, it's going to be much easier to blend out and to spread out across the face. So I was really surprised, to be honest, at how lightweight this formula is. So I'm just going to apply it to one half of my face so that you can see what it looks like, and then we'll compare it to the other half. There is a slight fragrance from it, but I don't really know what it is. But you can only really smell it when you're looking for it. It's not overpowering. As always, I am applying this with my BK Beauty 101 foundation brush, and I'm just tapping into the foundation and just popping it on this half of my face first. So that is just one really light layer on this side. And without. Let me get this on the rest of my face. So that's the foundation applied. I don't have any concealer on under my eyes, but I will complete my makeup in a moment. Let's take a look at a quick before and after. This foundation was absolutely not what I expected. I knew it was a Lumi Matte, but still, luminous matte foundations don't really work great on my skin. I think it's one of the most lightweight foundations I have ever used in my whole entire life. You can't feel this on the skin. So I'd say this is a medium coverage, which obviously you can build up. And because it's so lightweight, it's shocking to see how much it actually covers. So obviously it's evened out my whole skin tone. You can see how much it's covered my hyperpigmentation, the blemishes on my cheeks, and it doesn't look cakey at all. And that's what worries me with matte foundations, that it will be cakey, it will cling to all my dry patches. This just looks like your skin. I'm pretty blown away by this, and to think that I wasn't going to try this. I know, am I crazy? Right, I'm going to just finish off the rest of my makeup now. Everything that I use will be linked in the description box below. And when I come back, I'll show you some wear test footage. I'll show you the Skin Tint and this foundation side by side, and then we will discuss our final thoughts. We're back, and just to let you know, I have not powdered down my face today. I don't feel like I need to with this foundation, so the only place that I put powder is just underneath my eyes, just in my under eye hollows. So now that the foundation has had a little bit of time to sit for a while, I think it's time to do a transfer test. Just taking a white tissue, and I think the best place to do it is kind of around the chin area, because I don't put any extra products around there. Wow. Not a thing. Nothing at all. Let's try again. This side. Wow. So I can confirm that it is transfer proof. Let me show you some wear test footage now. So out in the daylight, I think you can see that it probably looks even nicer out in the daylight than it does inside. It looks flawless. It is smoothing, it's quite blurring, it doesn't cling to dry patches, it doesn't emphasize wrinkles or texture, and in terms of longevity, this is a brilliant foundation. I can literally be touching my face and it still won't come off, and I guess that is down to the fact that it's transfer proof and it claims to be water resistant and sweat resistant, but it will last a good 12 hours with absolutely no problem whatsoever. People are obviously going to be wondering if these are similar or whether they're completely different. So I am going to dive into some comparison footage for you now. So I'm just showing you footage now of me applying each of them, and I'll compare them side by side. So I think in terms of similarities, I think they both give the same amount of coverage and they are both buildable. I think they are both very fluid, runny foundations, which make them easier to spread and to blend. They do both feel hydrating, and neither of them sit on top of the skin. They do sink into the skin and they do feel fairly hydrating. In terms of differences, I think it's all about the finish. I think the Lumi Matte is much more of a natural finish foundation. So very, very skin-like, but luminous. The Skin Tint is different because it gives more of a glowy, dewy, hydrated finish. And I would say that the Lumi Matte is self-setting, whereas if you want to bring down a bit of the shine and a bit of the glow of the Skin Tint, then you would have to use powder. They both appeal to different preferences. I think the Lumi Matte is more appropriate for a wider range of skin types. So whether you have normal to dry, normal to oily skin, I think this would be a really nice foundation. However, I think that the Skin Tint is aimed more at people with normal to dry skin. So if you want the hydrated, glowy look, go for the Skin Tint. But if you want a natural skin-like finish, then go for the Lumi Matte. So I think it is plain to say that if you are after something that is going to give you dewy, hydrated, plump skin, you're going to go for something like this. If you want something that looks like skin, that is very soft, very natural, super soft matte, but still allows that luminosity, then you're going to go for this. I think they both offer something completely different, and depending on the day, I'll reach for one or the other. I'll just take you through what I think are the pros and cons of this foundation. Let's start with the negatives. So I think the major negative is the fact that it contains alcohol. It would have been really, really nice to have a Maybelline foundation that doesn't contain alcohol for those people who have more sensitive skin and those who are prone to drier skin. So for me, I don't have particularly sensitive skin, to be honest. However, I can see how this foundation could possibly become drying over time. The second one is that it's not the most hydrating foundation in the world. Now, it is extremely lightweight. However, it isn't a dewy, super glowy foundation, and I don't feel like it hydrates my skin as the day goes on. However, having said that, it doesn't feel drying as the day goes on. But if you are used to a dewy and a glowy foundation, you might find this quite different. I don't know if you had some serious dryness or serious texture on the skin. I think there is a possibility it could cling to those patches. Now, I'll have to keep updating you, and I will be including this in an updates video in the future. So I'll let you know, because no doubt my skin will be up and down as we go along. Despite those points, the positives absolutely outweigh the negatives when it comes to this foundation. So this gives a really good medium coverage, but it is one of the most lightweight foundations I've ever tried. It's much more lightweight, for example, than the Maybelline. It's much more lightweight than my Holy Grail, the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation. It is incredibly fluid. It is so easy to apply because it has that fluidity, but it still gives a solid medium coverage. So if you look, it's covered all of my problematic areas. It's done a really nice job on my hyperpigmentation, evening out my skin tone, covering my blemishes, and not emphasizing any parts of my face that I don't want to be emphasized. Another great point is that it is incredibly self-setting. I don't feel on my normal to drier skin that I need to powder. So you don't have to worry about it feeling tacky or feeling there on the skin. Once it's set, and as you can see, it is transfer proof. I love the way that this smooths my skin. So I was worried that it would emphasize my smile lines or kind of texture on my chin or on my nose, and it doesn't do any of that. And another amazing positive for me is that it does not oxidize. No oxidizing at all in any way, shape or form with this foundation. I know that people are going to ask if it's like a satin, if it feels like a satin, if it looks like a satin, if it's in any way like this e.l.f. Soft Glam, and the answer is no. I would say it's a level back from this. So it doesn't have the glow that this does. So it's a very, very, very soft matte finish. And in my opinion, it looks like skin. It looks like a second skin. It feels like a second skin. And for a matte hater like me, this has been an absolute surprise for me. And I think it is genuinely down to the luminosity. So is it my new favorite at the drugstore? I would say that it's now in my top 5 for sure. However, I don't think anything's going to knock my e.l.f. Satin Foundation off the top spot just yet. But I think if I just want an everyday foundation, something that takes me literally seconds to blend, that I don't have to powder down and I don't have to mess around with, this is that foundation. And for those of you who want more of a natural looking complexion, I think you'll really enjoy this. And you also get 5 mil more with this foundation. So you'll have to let me know if you have tried this foundation or if you are planning on picking it up. I think my final thoughts are, it's another lesson that I judged a product before I tried it because it had matte in the name. If something catches your eye, watch reviews, read reviews, and maybe give it a whirl, because you might actually be missing out on a gem. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I so appreciate you being here with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next one. But until then, take care and bye for now.